Did you ever go back to this exact spot where the restroom was?
No. Oh, I went back the next day because I was paranoid. I thought maybe I left. First, I drove by a couple times because I thought there might be police there, and but there were several spots like that along the river. I don't know. 20/20 hindsight, she might not have even been able to tell which spot it was.
Because it was dark, kind of dark.
Yeah, it was, and there weren't really any landmarks, no signs or anything. But yeah, I went back the next day and I finally stopped and just went into the bathroom to make sure, because I was thinking I had dropped something or left something there. I couldn't remember.
And then did you go in the military soon after that, or?
Yeah, it was a couple years after that.
But you weren't joining the military to get out of that area or anything?
No. No, I finished that house and.
You said this was your parents' house?
Yeah, my dad, he sold our farm in eastern Washington, and he bought this little fixer-upper in that tiny little town in Maupin, and me and one of my buddies that I had been working with put a big addition on it and turned it into this big house and stuff.
Maybe we've talked about this before. You didn't have any formal training in that. How did you get so handy with building? And
well, I worked for about a year and a half in eastern Washington on a construction crew. That's how I got started out in it. But
and doing everything from framing to finish, or
mostly framing. But yeah, that was mostly framing up till that point. But then when I was in Oregon, that was the first house I did the electrical on. Like I did all the wiring, and it all had to pass inspection and stuff. So that's just the way I would learn to do stuff, just by doing it.
And did your parents live in that house?
No, none of us ever lived in that house. It was brand new. Once we were done, it was like new, and my dad put it on the market. Didn't sell, so I think he had to rent it for a while, and then it finally sold, and that's when he bought the property in Maine. But in the meantime, we had gone back to upstate New York. That's where I lived for about a year.
So how long did you spend in Oregon total?
It was less than a year, I think.
And while you were living there, were you living in that house or someplace else?
No, I was living in a camper I built on the back of my truck.
And were your parents living there?
No, my parents were. They had a trailer that they were staying in. They were working for a food company down there.
In Oregon?
Yeah, like a wholesale foods company, and so they would come over on their days off and help us with the house. But for the most part, it was just me and my buddy that stayed there at the house. And
who was your buddy?
His name was Eric Robertson.
Eric Robertson.
Yeah.
Did you ever keep in touch with him?
Yeah, he still calls me sometimes. He had a really bad accident a few years ago. He's not really what he used to be.
Is he still in Oregon?
No, I think he lives in Idaho or Colorado now. He had some pretty major head trauma
from an accident.
Yeah, he ran into a tree on a snowmobile. So
where did that happen?
I think that happened in Colorado. That was years ago, but ever since that happened, he's been keeping in touch with me and stuff. He just changed a lot after the accident. He used to have his own construction business and do all these fancy houses in Colorado, and then he had that accident and just kind of dropped off the radar. So.
Is your age?
Yeah, he might be a year or two older than me.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
It probably would have been a couple of weeks before I got arrested. He probably called me. He was calling me pretty regularly over the last couple of years.
So after you raped the girl there on the river, you said you were pretty nervous about getting caught.
Yeah.
How long was it between that incident and when you next got up the nerve to do another crime?
I didn't do anything really bad when I was in the Army. It kind of balanced me out and gave me something else to focus on, I guess. Not so much free time.
How about before you got in the Army, between when you raped this girl and when you got in the Army?
No, there wasn't anything major. I think well, yeah, there wasn't.
What are you thinking of?
No, there were like a couple. Actually, it wasn't in New York, but it was. There were a few things that happened, but nothing major, no.
Well, what are you thinking of?
Huh?
What are you thinking of?
What's major to you?
Well, like I said, no, that was major. Like, to me at the time, that was a big deal. Like, the whole thing that happened on the Deschutes, that was a big deal, and so I was really paranoid after that. I was convinced that. I don't remember if I was worried about DNA at the time, but I was convinced that, there was like some big investigation trying to find out who had done this. When in reality, like 20/20 hindsight now, I don't know, maybe she never even told anybody, I don't know.
But what made this one different? You said that prior to this, she wasn't the first person that you'd raped, or at least had sex with that wasn't a willing participant. What made this one? Because you tied her up, and it was.
No, because I was going to kill her.
So how about before that?
And she knew I was going to kill her.
So before that, the people that you raped didn't think they were going to get killed. It was just they knew it was just a rape. How would they know that?
There was never anything on that level. Up until that point.
And what were you just thinking of about New York?
Oh, there was. I didn't live in New York for very long, but I can remember. Before I got in the Army, I would go up to Montreal sometimes. And it wasn't nothing major, though. Nothing like that. I was out looking for trouble, but I didn't get into it. Didn't get caught.
What kind of trouble would you get away with in Montreal?
Oh, there were a few strip clubs that I would go to, and just like bad parts of town up there and stuff. You can find a lot of trouble in Montreal if you're looking for right places, and I was I don't even think I was 20 at the time, and I almost got in some bad situations up there. It kind of freaked me out, and
with prostitutes or with
just like typical being in the bad part of town, bad hotels kind of thing,
Like because you didn't look like you fit in them, you became a target, or what made you?
Well, just because I was young, and And I had a gun with me, so I thought that made me invincible. But then I realized, like Canada, that's actually a bad thing. If you show a gun, then all of a sudden everybody, it's not nearly as, it's a lot bigger deal than if you show a gun down here.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, I didn't take a gun to Canada anymore.
Did you go there with the intention of doing something?
I went there with the intention of getting in trouble. I wasn't. It's not like I had anywhere staked out. I wasn't gonna. I was mostly there looking for, prostitutes and stuff.
With the idea of killing anybody, or just
No.
having sex with them?
Well, no. I didn't. I mean, I had stuff with me, but I don't think I would have done anything. It was just like. Yeah, I don't think I would have.
What kind of stuff?
Just my stuff, like knives and ropes and stuff like that. The usual.
Well, at some point in time, we went from ropes to cable ties with the courier.
Yeah, cable ties were. I thought they were a good invention. Turns out ropes are better.